soul songs, both Soul Songs 1 and Soul Songs 2, and the third one that's on the way, are all about the deep spiritual journey. If they happen to come through an AI music generator, if they happen to come through a painting that you actually put, brush on the board to make, what does it matter if the transformation takes place?
I think it's for everyone because it's really about being a human, being alive.
Welcome, Rebecca. This is such an exciting moment for me because of how it all happened. That's the most exciting thing. And to be able to capture this moment in time for us as a way of saying, yeah, this is part of it too. The music is great, but this is part of it too. So I want to share my perspective on what was going on here just to bring us in. But before I do that, let's meet you, because there's people here on the music shelf who haven't met you before. Who is Rebecca Noelle, in addition to being my amazing wife?
Well, that's the number one. I'm a wife and a mother and a grandmother, and me as a person, I consider myself a pretty diverse artist. I had a career in dance until I was about 30, and then went into oil painting after that, which that's what I consider my career right now. But I love all kinds of art. I love performance art, fine art. I love making music. Any kind of creativity is what I thrive on. So that's me. I'm definitely an artist at heart.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's lovely that we've been able to do some musical stuff together. And, in spite of everything else, Rebecca also sings. So, and acts. And I mean, there's a whole lot of things, but I love that we've done some musical projects together in the past.
Music brought us together. Music and dance brought us together. And
it's true.
They're still sort of in waves, a big part of our lives. It's interesting.
Truly. I love that you grabbed onto this music AI thing so fast, so completely. And it was what, the 4th of July? I think it was the 4th of July.
Yeah, we just looked at that.
We were...
it was the 4th when we made one on yours. And
yes.
Then the next morning I made my own account so I could just have at it.
Start doing them, right? So this process of making music on Suno, just for people who are listening, Suno AI is, as some people say, an embattled software engine that's available on the web. But it has done some amazing things. And a couple of months ago, I started to play with it because I'm, as a musician myself, I didn't want to be afraid of this thing. I wanted to understand what it could do, how I could use it, if I could use it. And the process of doing that it blew me away. It literally blew me away. And for those who are seeing this at some point in the future, we used Suno 4.5. We're recording in July of 2025. And I think in April of 25 is when Suno introduced their 4.5 version. And that complicates things because AI moves so fast. But it really reached into my heart doing this process that Rebecca's going to describe. It reached into my heart and I wanted to share it. And I'd done that sort of publicly in some other venues, but on the 4th of July, Rebecca and I sat down and I said, I got to show you how this works. And it wasn't long after clicking through and watching it create, like songs from thin air that I think the timestamp on that file is like 9:30 in the evening when we made your first music. Rebecca said, I've got a poem. And I went downstairs to the computer and read it, speech to text, and used the file and pasted that into Suno. And it made the very first song, the bones of which are still in the album now. But as Rebecca said, that's the moment. And right after that, you kind of did one of those, like when Liberté came, all of those acrylic paintings. It's like I knew that Rebecca was up there and she was working on something, and these songs were just flowing. So let me get off the stage and talk to us about how that happened that Saturday morning, July 5th, when you started to make music.
Well, comparing it to Liberté is pretty spot on because that's kind of how I operate as an artist. I try not to. I try to be slow and steady and chipping away every day, but I have major highs and I have major lows when I think I'll never create again. But Liberté was gosh, 40 something paintings that I did within a few days. A few years ago, and it was just a rush of creativity. And this music project was a really similar experience. And it started with a rush of poems that I wrote in 2018. That was the same thing. I wrote 44 poems in 2018 within a few days. It's all just, sometimes it just pours out and you can't stop. And you have to ride that wave because the wave's not going to last forever. So when we started using Suno together, I didn't really have any ideas. I was thinking of making some funny stuff. You've been making funny songs, and I love funny music. But I grabbed the journal that had the 44 poems in them from a few years ago, and so there was just like a gold mine of song ideas. And some of them I just typed them out exactly the way they were. The very first one that we did was fun, and it's about keeping the fun of childhood in your adult life. And I'm pretty sure we just typed that one out the way it was. But after that, I just started taking one poem at a time and editing them if they needed to be, more fluid for a song, or if they needed to. There were some things that were just redundant. There was a bit of editing that I did in the process of typing them out into Suno. And then I tried out some different voice ideas, decided that I only wanted female voices. I just felt this poetry needed to be sung in these sort of rich, calming, feminine voices, maybe because that's an extension of my own voice. So I chose the kinds of voices that I wanted and prompted those. I chose my favorite instruments like cello, vibraphone, marimba, chimes, hand drums, things that you don't normally hear playing together in genres that you don't normally hear mixed. I was using like Irish jigs and reels and with marimba and dream pop and jungle lounge and tribal music, and somehow between the consistency of the female voices and the chosen instruments, there's a thread that goes through the album, and also the words, obviously, because the words are all mine. They're all sort of centered on a concept which I forgot to tell you about.
Well, I want to ask you about that, because the thing that really got me was taking words that I'd written, poetry that I'd written, ages ago, or spontaneous things that I was just thinking now and writing down, and then hearing them sung back to me. That just really grabbed my heart. How was that for you?
Well, I should take a step back to the original intention of the poetry, which became the intention of the albums. It was really a project of intention. It was January of 2018, and I was thinking about and writing my upcoming year of intentions. I wrote down a whole bunch of words that sparked interest in me, words like love, beauty, tranquility, music, dance, on and on. And each poem was written as almost like an ode or a blessing or a reflection of that word or an intention. So to then take those words further and how, prompt the music from Suno, and there's a lot of sifting through to find something that's really magic. But once you find that magic in the music that goes along with the words that you've written, it makes you wonder, like, did I even write that? It just feels like this I don't know, almost like a channeling experience to have your words turn into something that takes them to a whole other level and that brings them to life in a whole new way.
I
So
get that.
that was amazing. I mean, I was crying a lot the first few times we listened to the albums beginning to end, and you've been very patient and encouraging with me and listening to them with me over and over and over. But yeah, those first few times I couldn't make it through. I was just crying and crying because it brought the words to life and really reminded me of the beauty of those concepts and the importance of them in my life, in our lives, in our relationship, in our family. So,
I've been really struck by that because there are things that I've done with Suno, some of which I've released, and you all, if you're watching this, you know I've been writing about this. But the unlocking, I think, of meaning in the words is something that is fundamental to making music from them. And I'm going to ask you about this later, but the process can be either one and done, or it can be really hard to get what you want out of the AI engine. And we're going to talk about that later. But the thing that I wanted to share that I feel like is so common to both of us here and the other people that I've spoken to are doing this is that when it's right, somehow you just get it. It blows you away. And I can't say that that's because of the amazing music or whatever, the voice, or there's no single aspect of this that is the thing that really unlocks it. So I'm curious because I'm a music guy. I hear the music first. What is it that really struck you, like if you could put it into words, about that moment where it really comes alive that you've just described?
I'm not sure that I actually had any that were one and done. What has happened a few times though is that I've made something towards the beginning of the process and then thought, oh, that's pretty good. And then liked it and sort of kept making more versions and then ended up realizing that nothing was going to be better than that one I made towards the beginning. So that definitely has happened. There hasn't been a moment where I clicked create for the very first time and then went, oh my God, it's perfect. And quite often there's compromise that you need to make depending on your priorities. My number one priority in this music, in these albums, was the words. The words needed to be clear. They needed to be phrased correctly. They needed to have, nice rhythm with the song. They needed a voice that was carrying them clearly, that was easy to understand. And just that alone sometimes is so hard to get out of Suno because Suno doesn't realize what a natural musical phrasing would be like. So it's throwing stuff all over the place and it's throwing away important words and phrases. And it could be the most incredible, beautiful song, exactly what you wanted, but the voice sucks, the diction sucks. It's just not the right rhythm for the words, like there's a lot of experimentation and then a bit of compromise in the end to choose the one that is magic. And sometimes it's not that the entire song is magic, it's that like one moment or one phrase that's going to stick with you is magic. And so it's good enough for you to choose that version. And sometimes I'll hear that like in the first half of the song when I'm listening to it for the first time. And I get so much anxiety. I'm like, please don't mess up in the second half. Please don't do anything weird or horrible or hit any clams or go completely off the rails because this is so good. It's like gambling, you just don't know what you're going to get.
And yet you're willing to keep pulling the lever until you get what you want.
And communicating, refining your communication based on what it happens to be doing. Sometimes it'll like hit this wave of wanting to do everything like really, really fast. So you have to put 5 times in the prompt that you want it slow. Sometimes it'll do the opposite. It'll make everything you put into a ballad, even though you keep saying up tempo, fun, happy, dance music. It'll be like
So Suno can be either
ignores us.
it can be a really great collaborative partner, or it can be a a recalcitrant sort of stodgy, I'm going to do what I want, just like we musicians.
And it's a program that has a lot of faults. So I'm constantly cursing the bad programming and the fact that I'm wasting my credits on their bad programming when they're giving me gibberish or clams or, whatever thing that shouldn't be there. But yeah, so sometimes I'll have to like refresh the page and sort of hope that that the site will like stop doing what I don't want it to do.
So for people who have never seen Suno before, it kind of looks like a couple of boxes where you have one for lyrics and one for your style, your prompts. And there's some adjustments you can make to the style. And then a big sort of orange button that says create. When you create, it gives you two versions of its, ability to create that moment in music. And you listen. And because this process of creation takes seconds and the process of listening takes 3 minutes-ish or more, you spend a lot of time listening. And sometimes it's like obvious right away the voice doesn't work, or you want to listen a little bit longer to see if it will work somewhere down the road. And if you don't like it, then you go back and start over. And there's no such thing in Suno as going in and fixing one note or fixing one word. They aren't there yet. Save us a lot of time and credits if there were.
Sometimes you'll get lucky when you remaster and that voice and or that word will fix itself.
It'll fix itself. Like we have one, what was the pronunciation that was so funny?
Oh, we've had a few. We had harmony.
Harmony.
Yeah, harmony. It was a really important word too. And circumspect.
Circumspect.
For circumspect instead of circumstance. But that remastered and those worked themselves out. But there's one that I couldn't fix no matter how many remasters I did. That was the word fearless, which it turned into fearless. And that's the way it is on the album.
That's the way it is on the album.
So get used to it.
Can we hear one of these? You mentioned something about how something really grabbed you. What song comes to mind that has that real grabbing bit in it? And what should we listen for as we're listening to it?
Let's do grounding. There's a lot of things I love. I mean, I love all the songs so much. This is just an impossible choice. But for some reason, I have grounding in my head. It's got it's got some cello. It's got some like, I don't know, plucking of some guitar maybe or ukulele. It has a very nice clear voice. It has a pretty melody and you can really hear the words and it all just it melds very nicely. And it was also compromised because I did not want soprano. I did not want high voices in any of my songs, and Suno will not listen to me. I put in like all caps with 5 exclamation marks, deep voice, tenor, whatever I can, and it's like whatever. But in the end, it was a compromise that was worth it for me because it made such a beautiful song that I really love it.
So this is Grounding from Soul Songs. 2 minutes and 47 seconds for those who are keeping time at home. And let's have a listen. Here we go.
Her breath moves and sinking down through every part of me that was scattered in sharp bits all locked inside the glacier of my heart. Ground and earth and universe beneath my feet. Ancestors call from the trees, from the heavens, from the earth's core. whispers travel through my heart, my womb, my breath escaping into the wind. A blessing of well-being. Brain, mind, eyes are open, sensible, stable, present. I am an ancient soul coming and going, finding meaning, giving love, one with the rhythms of the earth. Ground and earth and universe beneath my feet. Ancestors call from the trees, from the heavens, from the earth's core. Ground and earth and universe beneath my feet. Ancestors call from the trees, from the heavens, from the earth's core. Be fearless.
No wonder I had that in my head. Be fearless.
Hey, Fairla. I
Anyways, this
love
goes up
that.
way, way high, way
And it
higher
also
than
was
I
hot.
wanted
Yes.
it to. But
So why did you go with this one? Like, why did you choose this version? It had all the things you don't want.
it had the right phrasing. Also, it would be impossible for me to really answer that question without also playing you all of the other potential versions that I could have chosen, because sometimes it's like I'll have 5 or 10 that I like that I'll add into the playlist, and then I'll just have to keep listening. And there's one that I like better because the phrasing is clearer and the words mean more, or one that I like better because it mixes the instruments that I love better, or one that just like makes me cry every time I hear a certain line, or one that has a melody with a phrase that sticks in my head. A lot of them have that. We've had earworms of every single song on that album
Yeah, all month long.
last few weeks.
So for people who are looking at this, how much control do you have over things like the melody that gets chosen, or the structure of the song? I mean, just like the fundamental things that composers would look at.
Not much, but there are ways to communicate. When it will pick up your communication, it'll work. Sometimes it'll completely ignore you, but a lot of the time I like to put in something like the singer has a very clear voice so that you can easily understand the lyrics. I'll put that as a prompt. Or I'll put beautiful, memorable melody as a prompt. I do that a lot as well. Doesn't mean I'm going to get it, but I might be more likely to get something closer if I do those prompts. But a lot of it comes down to just having faith that if you make enough versions, you'll get something good enough, and you can take that good enough through a remaster to something that's great for an album. And clearly it's not perfect. I still have Fearless, but
Yep.
And I had made a bunch of remasters of that still said Fearless. So what am I going to do? The version of the song was good enough for me to still choose it compared to the others. But I bet you if I went back and listened to all my other versions of Grounding, there's probably some pretty cool songs in there. When you're choosing the best, sometimes it's really, really obvious. And sometimes, like, even you and I have sat there and gone back between like 2 versions of something and like, well, this is good in this one and this is good in that one. And it comes down to your gut in that situation, I think. Which one do you want to keep singing? Which one, makes you cry or makes you smile more or makes you dance more? And that there was Journey in album album 2 has a song called Journey, where I had kind of a country version of that song in there because it was so catchy, because I couldn't get it out of my head, but it just didn't feel like it fit in with the rest of the album. It was too straight country. So I ended up choosing my second favorite of that one. But now it's my favorite, and it's got, like all the instruments I wanted. It has a more appropriate voice and style, and it sticks in my head as well. So I had to let go of a real catchy tune in order to have more consistency through the album. And that felt like a compromise, but at this point, it feels like the one I chose in the end was the right one. But there's another cool version of Journey out there, hanging in the air. So
I've felt that too. And sometimes, as if you've been reading my blog, I release 3 versions of the 23rd Psalm, and I love all of them. And it's like, what if you can't decide, right? And most of the time, the decisions are made in a different way. I mean, in the recording world right now, we have an obsession with perfection in music. The beat has got to be spot on. It's like the classical world, even where we can play with the beat, has an obsession with perfection. And it's really, really overriding versus having the kind of authentic emotion that used to be there in recordings where I'm a piano player, right? So in recordings where Horowitz or somebody would just go crazy, and what happened was amazing, mistakes and all, because it was Horowitz. And this music AI ethos is similar in some ways to that. I mean, we have no control over the music itself, really. But the choices that you're talking about, I think, are really fundamental to the impact at the end of the day. And, like hearing a whole album and there's one country song that jumps up because we thought it was the best musically, and it doesn't fit within the ethos, that's not going to work. And there are other times too. I love these times. We'll be sitting there doing something, and Rebecca will crack up. She's got her earbuds on, and she's like working, and she'll just laugh. So I'm hoping one day you'll do a bloopers reel of all the stuff that that Spotify made that's just hilarious, because there's some
Suno.
I'm sorry, that Suno made.
I need to get on that now because it's piling up quickly. We had one yesterday where it sounded like she was being strangled in the middle of a note. Or she turned into a demon or something. Oh, and then that one time I tried to add in a word, and remember that? And it was like, la la la, winter.
Yes, it's like this demon voice, winter, growly.
You never know what weird thing it's going to do. And sometimes it'll just be like total gibberish and just weird notes and bad chords. And yeah, sometimes I guess, well, and then you can report the bug.
Yeah.
I guess that's a bug because it is a bug.
Yeah.
I've taken it upon myself to report every single bug from, from like a week ago. I was like, I am sick of this shit. I'm going to report every single thing. And I've reported like half the songs I've made since then. Because you can report for bad audio quality, not following the lyrics, not following the prompts and the style, bad song structure. I think those are the 4 things, and then other. So sometimes I'll click everything because it's just a total mess what they give me. It's completely odd. But that's why it's like gambling. It's just like every time you push create, you're losing a little bit of money, and you're like hoping that you're going to get the jackpot, and a lot of the time you just get total crap.
And goes to know, because it is an AI, and probably not even the programmers at Suno know exactly what it's going to do every single time. I really caution everybody, this is not a reliable process. I've been doing some mastering of pre-recorded stuff, and I'll get to that, further on in the blog. But this is basically an experimental exercise right now that we, the users, are funding at whatever, $99 a year. It's not too bad. But when you run out of credits, you buy more, and in order to keep the project going, you have to keep buying more and more credits. So 2 albums in, 35 songs so far, off of the 44 poems that were written. How are you feeling right now?
I'm still riding the wave. I don't want it to end. I've I've got my song list for album 3. Soul Songs 3. The original 44 poems ended up as 35. A lot of the concepts were able to be combined. Um, like originally there was a poem called Mother as well as a poem called Goddess, and I ended up sort of combining the two.
Yeah.
So yeah, in the end, I ended up with 35, and then realized that there were other words and concepts that I still would like to write about and write music or create music for. So I've got all of those written down, another 20 or so for Soul Songs 3. Before I start with that though, I've started a Christmas album because that was really tugging on me as well. I anyone who knows me knows I'm obsessively Christmas.
Christmas in July.
Yeah, I never stop listening to Christmas music. It's one of my special interests, you could say. And my whole life, I've always written children's poems and things like that. A lot of them have been about winter and Christmas. So I don't like have them here with me that I know of. So I'm kind of drawing on my memories and my ideas. I wrote out the song list for that, and I've made 5 Christmas songs so far for that album. The album's called Happy Christmas.
You guys will love the album cover. I won't show it to you.
Yeah, I mean, creating the album art is just as fun too, because you want it to really represent all of the concepts and ideas and heart that went into the music. So I'm really proud of the album covers as well, even though I didn't, paint them or whatever. They were created with AI. I feel like they represent everything, all of the words in the music so beautifully. So anyway, the Happy Christmas album cover is not so much beautiful as it is hilarious and
hilarious. Oh, it's so much fun. So as a creator, I have to ask this because just this week we got news through all the major media that the first AI, he calls himself a music designer, has signed a record deal. And it's not a major label, and he's only got 3.2 million listens to his hit song called Stone on Suno. Go get it soon. But I listened to the song and I'm like, okay, this is mainstream music today. And he's doing it with AI. His handle is I am Oliver. And I'm going to be judgmental here for a second, because while this song is better than the Velvet Sundown or whatever that schlock band is that everybody talked about last week, making AI music and irresponsibly promoting it and making a bunch of money because of its promotion on Spotify, I Am Oliver is coming closer to the heart, right? He's able to make something that he's not trying to bluff anybody here. He's just saying, this is the music that resonates for me. And I get that. And I'm glad that he's got a deal, right? I'm glad that the industry is recognizing AI music designers or creators or programmers, whatever we're going to call ourselves, and the value that exists in that music. But I want to ask, because this is so new, how that creative process was for you, knowing exactly what you were doing to make this music come alive in a way that has emotional resonance. That's really the point of music in the first place. How was that process for you? Did you have any ethical issues as you were doing it, or other than the frustration, what was going on?
I didn't really allow myself to feel bad about the fact that it's AI until the albums were finished, and I
right, and then it all comes into
a little bit of judgment from just a couple people on basically, if you're using AI, it's not really yours and you're cheating and you should be writing the songs yourself and things like that. Like basically you're doing nothing except pumping your words into it. I addressed a lot of those ideas and judgments when I first posted about the album, because it really was causing me anxiety. The music ended up they're my words, they're my poetry, so it already means something to me. But the process of creating the music as well and adding those melodies underneath the words and the rhythms and the feeling and hearing those voices, even though they're not real voices, they are so real. They just like, I'm in love with these voices. So every layer of the process has made the music become even more precious to me. And it feels very personal. I did not write the music. I don't have that kind of skill and talent and resources to create the band that I want and find the singers that I want and make all these beautiful layered songs. But this gave me that opportunity to, from here in my pajamas and the depths of my depression, to be like, ooh, I can make an album. And it brought me out of that depression into this like ecstatic wave of creativity. So I don't see how using AI for something personal like that, for something that is going to lift your mood and change your life, is, is bad. So I've been very protective about it because I am a very sensitive person and the music is very precious to me. But at the same time, I feel like it needs to be out there in the world. I'm really proud of it. It was an amazing experience making it. And uh, it's been a surprising process. I never saw it coming. If anyone had said a couple months ago that I would have made all this music, especially good music that's interesting and unique and beautiful, yeah, I never would have seen it coming. So it's been life-changing, and I'm trying to protect it while also just being ready to weather whatever kind of hate I may get from the fact that it's AI.
That's pretty courageous and honest. And I hope other AI creators that are out there in whatever their media stick with it too, because what you've proven for me, and I thought it was just me at first, but what you've proven with this album, with these albums, is that there is a place for AI music and that it's transformative. And Soul Songs, both Soul Songs 1, Soul Songs 2, and the third one that's on the way, are all about the deep spiritual journey of what sustains you. And the act of putting that out there, I think, is first of all, in our day, it's really, really important to have that kind of grounding, as the song we heard says, but to be able to find those things that really do enliven us. And if they happen to come through an AI music generator, if they happen to come through a painting that you actually put, brush on the board to make, what does it matter if the transformation takes place? That's kind of what I'm after here. And it's hard work. Painting is hard work, right? And composing is hard work. It's really excruciatingly difficult. And if Suno has made that easy in any way for you, you mentioned some of them, but just sort of quickly, what are the ways that you would never be able to do what you've done without music AI?
One of the bits of magic is in the fact that it can take your words and sort of lay them into a rhythm and into a melody that you never would have thought of. So in a lot of ways, I've come into the project knowing what I want. I know what voices I want. I know what instruments I want. I know what feeling I want. I want the song to really represent the feeling of the word that the poem is about. Beauty needs to be a beautiful song. Presence needs to draw people in to being in this present moment. Earth is a very tribal, calm, grounding, tribal song that makes you feel like you're in the jungle. Like I knew the feeling that I wanted. I knew some of the sounds that I wanted, but the ability to come up with a bunch of different versions of that, different tempos. Sometimes I know the tempo and the rhythm that I want. Sometimes I know I want a fast jig. but a lot of the time I don't, and I'm really grateful for Suno for coming up with sambas and rumbas and every once in a while a swing. And I mean, sometimes I'm very not grateful when it comes up with like 10 polkas in a row. I'm asking for a mid-tempo chill song, but it gives you that sort of experimentation with a full band that you would not, even if you had all the money in the world and a full band, you would never be able to hear all these versions of a song.
Well, let's talk about this band, because you've got cello, which is important, you mentioned, and marimba, or like xylophone, the mallets. There's obviously drums, but how in the world did you come up with the instrumentation choices that you wanted? Because they seem like they'd just be a train wreck if you went into the studio with live musicians.
You mean the blending of those?
Yeah, the instruments, and I mean, clearly Suno is doing its job to make them all work. But what made you decide that, having a vibraphone and an EDM song about dreams would work?
It's just intuitive, and it comes from the things that I love, that I've loved throughout my life. And there were a lot of times I asked myself, do I want to add anything? Do I want more instruments? And every once in a while, Suno will add another instrument that I'm okay with, but a lot of the time it'll add things that are just too much, or I wanted it to be very chill. For me, anything with like chimes, marimba, vibraphone, and cello, that sort of the chiminess of the vibraphone mixed with like that deep sort of lilting cello sound, or even the fiddling cello, or the cello used as a bass. Like all of that to me is very calming. And then a lot of the time, rather than using a drum set, I use hand drums, and I typed in all the kinds of hand drums that I wanted, because I wanted it to be I wanted it to feel very kind of like grassroots, grounded, rather than some big band with tons of sound and horns and strings and this and that. I wanted to build a band that felt really personal to me, the sounds that I like. And I wanted to see how that went with the words that I'd written, like what would happen if I turn this poem about the earth into an actual tribal song and then add cello to it.
So this dialogue with the AI is an important part of the creative process. In fact, it sounds like it's almost essential. You couldn't do this in real life. I mean, I can imagine real life players with the instruments and somebody who can score music really fast, making changes as rapidly as possible. You still wouldn't be able to do what Rebecca's done here, which is, okay, let's call it July 5th as the start date. And the first album was public on Spotify on the 11th or 14th. I mean, it was within a couple of weeks, people, 10 days. And now they're both on Spotify. It's, less than a month from an idea to fully realized albums. That is something that is remarkable to me. Does it make you feel like there's more creative energy bottled up in our world just waiting to be released?
Yeah. Like I said, I never saw this coming. I never would have known that I had that in me. And I don't think it's going to last forever. I feel like the Soul Songs was just a beautiful moment in time where I was right place, right time. I had the right words there. I had these musical ideas. When Soul Songs is over and my Christmas album is over, maybe I'll have some new idea that will bring a new wave of creative energy, or maybe I'll never make another song again. I really don't know. I think a lot of people will probably work differently than I do, tinkering around with things and trying different voices and different styles of bands and instruments, rather than knowing exactly what they want and exactly what they have to say. for me, that's part of like why this project was so special, was that I had a gold mine, that needed to be expressed. That's not going to be the case once I'm done writing songs about all these poems that I've written. I'll be like looking around like, well, now what? But I think even for people that don't have a gold mine or a book full of ideas, like we were talking to a woman who has early signs of dementia, and she wanted to use Suno in order to sort of get her thoughts out there into the world in meaningful ways and in ways that would like help her in her dementia journey. So there's just so many ways I think that it can be used that don't have to be like this insane obsessive create multiple albums in a month. And also I think one thing that bothers people about the whole AI thing is that there's a lot of people out there just mindlessly churning things out, just like making however much they can, just trying, using Suno to create lyrics, using Suno to create pop music, just trying to make as much as they can. But I don't feel like this was that kind of thing for me. This was more of like an obsessive creative endeavor of a completed project, like a package with a bow on it. I don't see myself just mindlessly, churning out volumes of music just to say I did. But there are people that are out there doing that, whether or not that's right, who knows and who cares, but it's a great tool for those of us who have something to say and who want music that that's gonna like feed us, like I knew that if I created this music, I'd be able to listen to it and it would feed me, the blessings, the affirmations, the reminders of my life. And then I'm finding out that it feeds other people too. So yeah, there's all different kinds of ways to use Suno, and there's levels of depth that you can go in creating the music. You can churn out mindless crap. You can have fun and tinker around with various things. We made a song out of a Shakespearean sonnet or something one day in class, we made a swing song out of it. Like you can just mess around with stuff, or you can make, like the album of your lifetime. You can do whatever you want with it.
So in addition to the invitation to do all of that, who is it that Soul Songs is for out there in the vast listening universe?
My first gut reaction to that question is that it's for women. It's very female centered. They're all very, very female, very feminine, sweet voices. There's a lot about connecting to the earth, about connecting to the divine feminine. But when I think about that further, I think that doesn't need to be for women. There are some songs that are, about being kind to your sisters and daughters and mothers that are specifically, written for and about women, but I don't see why that can't also mean something to every other gender, like it's important for all of us to respect Mother Earth and to be kind to women and to be kind to our mothers and our grandmothers. And so I think anybody who's open to ideas of the divine feminine, to reverence of our planet, to reflection on personal growth and dreams, dream interpretation, speaking to ancestors. There's so many like really deep, ancient spiritual themes in this music, and the music sort of encompasses all different genres, as we said before. So I would think anybody who would be drawn to this music would be curious and open to all those ancient spiritual concepts. that sort of encompass all religions, I think. I don't talk about God or Jesus or, may Father God or anything like that. But that doesn't mean that music isn't for, you know, traditional religious people. I think it's for everyone because it's really about being a human, being alive.
Play one more before we wrap. Can we do adventure?
Oh, I thought you were gonna do sun.
Well, my favorite is Sun, but people can go and listen to that, right? But
Yeah, you should
I
do
like
sun.
you're talking about this in a way that is so connected with what the invitation is in adventure, to live this beautiful way. And when you're listening to this, when you're listening to people, you'll hear the hook because it'll stick with you. And I don't want to give it away, but I hope you hear it when we do. We'll come back at the end and then ask if you got it. But let's play adventure, and then we'll wrap up with whatever final words you'd like to offer everyone.
On the twists and turns of your life journey, may you meet the unexpected with strength and wonder. In the darkest forests of your travels, may you continue your quest with or without help, with or without courage. Through the depths held by the wild, through the night into the light, may your risks be rewarded in knowledge and treasures, in a free and open heart. May your life and your death, your pursuits and your visions be a magical and stunning adventures. May your risks be rewarded in knowledge and treasures, in the free and open heart. May your life and your death, your pursuits and your visions be a magical and stunning adventure.
So you know the hook, right?
Gonna sing it for us?
Nah. When you hear the words that way, they just get into you. To me, I suppose to you too, but they stay with you. And for weeks now, those little hooks have stayed with me. And I know they're with you. I hear you singing them all around the house in ways that give me something to hang on to that I didn't have before. May your risks be rewarded with knowledge and treasure. I mean, how many times have you heard somebody say that? Perennial wisdom, right? It's just the way that life works, that risk and reward. But when you hear it to music, that gets into you. It changes you in a way. And I feel that way is good. So AI can do that, right? And what's wrong with it? Final words. What would you like to throw to the audience who's probably encountering AI music for the very first time in a conscious way? Right? Listen to the album. But I'm really curious in how it feels to be, for you to be that.
I think I would mostly encourage people to be open-minded about new tools and technology. There are ways in which things are abused, like we were talking about people just churning mindlessly out music, or if you're creating AI music and then pretending it's real or pretending it's really you singing, or just anything that's unethical or mindless. There's a reason to avoid that, but I'm seeing a lot of fear and judgment about AI that's without discrimination. Once somebody finds out that it was made with AI, they call it AI slop, or one of these insulting terms used for anything created that way, or created with the help of AI. Even if it's your own heart and your own ideas and your own words and all of these things, people will still write it off as AI slop because AI was a part of the process. And I don't think that's right. I think that there's a lot of beautiful things being created with AI. I think there's also another meme going around that says, like, I would have thought by now that AI would be taking care of my dishes and my laundry and doing all these other things for me instead of making art. But that's not right either. Like, I'm an artist and I create incredible images using AI. You're a musician and you're creating amazing songs using AI. We're using our ideas and our skills and our talent and our knowledge of music and of art to create really incredible things that we would have never had the time or resources to make. And we're able to use our creativity in ways that we never have in our lives. And like I've been through songwriting my entire life, and I've struggled through that, and I've made lots of sort of half-ass songs, but this allowed me to just create something that is amazing. And I can't say I'm proud of it because it wasn't just me, but it was an amazing collaboration of me and a computer to make something that's life-changing for myself and for others. So so I would say be wary of judgment made without discrimination on anything that's made with AI, because there's a lot of ways we're using AI in our everyday lives that we don't even think about, but as soon as it becomes about creating art, suddenly, it's evil. It's not true. AI is taking artists to the next level when they're willing to have that conversation and try it and participate in it. It's my 2 cents.
Thank you, darling. It's been so much fun to sit and sort of reflect on the last few weeks with you. And for those who are watching or listening, thank you for taking the time with us. This is a really important moment in our creative world right now, in so many ways. And the quiet revolution has begun. And it's people like Rebecca Noelle that are taking it to that level, ethically, magically, and in a transformative way. Thank you, sweetheart.
Thank you.